Okay. In last class, in our last theory class, we have already discussed about the basics of C++, and I have already discussed what is the difference between object-oriented programming architecture and procedure-based or procedure-oriented programming architecture. Then the difference between Java, C++, and C, the relation. With the Venn diagram, I have shown the relation. I hope that all of you have remembered those things and revised those things. And BCA people have already joined some. Is there any BCA people?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So BCA people, please join yourself in the Google Classroom, the link which I have provided to you, because in the Google Classroom, I am going to share the assignments of the lab that you have to complete within class or at your home and submit in the Google Classroom itself. Okay, I shall give the deadline. Please maintain the deadline. After the deadline, if you submit the assignment, BTech people will know everything because they have already part of my lab in the last sem. So if you submit your assignment after the deadline, you will be marked as late. Okay, and that late will be counted at the end of the semester. So deadline is very important for lab assignments, and you will have to submit the lab assignments along with the code and output. Okay, whatever output are going to be generated in your software, you have to take a snapshot of the output, take a print screen of it, and then make a copy paste into a Word file or into a Notepad file, or whichever is suitable for you, and then collectively submit all the programs of the assignments in the Google Classroom. I will create the link for your submission. Okay, but BCA people, everyone must join by today. Okay, all the 8 people of the BCA must join by the today. Okay. Okay, fine, very good. So I'm going to share my screen. Today is our first lab. So we are going to perform very basic experiments. Mostly we are going to perform the experiments related with C. That means today we are not going to focus on the object-oriented part. We are going to mainly focus on the procedure-oriented part of C++ environment. Okay. That means in last class I have already told C++ is a hybrid kind of language, which it is called object-oriented programming language, but sometimes it is also referred to as a hybrid kind of language because it also supports the programs without class and object. So today we mainly do such kind of program just for our revision that the programs you have already done in C. So we are going to perform those same programs in C++, right? And with some changes or with some modified things that we are going to handle in C++. So let me just give you an overall that how the programs is actually running in C++. It's quite natural and it's quite obvious that program is running in through these different phases. In the similar way, the program is running in C. Okay, so you are writing your source program. Source program means the program which you have written into the editor and save it in some name .cpp extension. Okay, that is a source program. Now from the source program you will compile, your compiler will compile that program. Okay, then your linker is also a software module. Okay, I hope that BTech people will know these things, has already known these things because I have already discussed this thing in the C programming. Okay, so linker is such kind of software module whose main job is to linking the external library routines. That means the header files that you have used where the system defined functions are clearly defined, which you can directly use in your program to get an instant access of those system defined functions. Okay, so linker has the main responsibility. Linker is a software module who has the main responsibility to link those library header files with the source code. Okay, and there's some other object files is also there whose responsibility of the linker to create that object file. Object file is something in between the source program and the machine level language program. Okay, it's something in between that files. Okay, so every source code, that means .cpp file, is converted into an object file, and then object file has been loaded by the help of this loader software module into the main memory for the execution. Okay, every object file is going to be loaded into the main memory. That means you can say into primary memory RAM for the execution, and that job has been done by the help of this software module called loader. Okay, I hope that loader job is clear to you. So linker job is to convert the source code program into an object file, and the object file is, by the help of loader, the object file is loaded, okay, into the main memory for the execution. Okay, so if there is any error, then you have to again think, edit, and then again recompile. Okay, that's why this feedback path has been shown or has been given. And this dotted line is represent the IDE. The IDE, whichever integrated development environment, IDE full form is. So whatever IDE you are using, you may use Visual C++, you may So this is the overall scenario of how this C++ program is executing. Okay, and the compiler job is to compile the block of code at a time. The compiler job is to compile the block of code at a time from source, convert the block of code at a time from source code to object code. Okay, and during the compilation, if there is any kind of syntactical error occurs, the compiler will catch those errors and throw the errors at the output window and ask you to modify your program according to that error. Okay, so syntactical error has been caught by the compiler, okay, from the source code, any kind of syntax related error, and your logical error or runtime error you will get at the execution level. Okay, when your program is executed, that means when your object file is loaded by the loader into the main memory for execution, at that time you will get the logical error. If any logical error occurs in your program, then you will find the logical error. Okay, logical error means the error which actually logically occurs, the error which occurs at runtime. Okay, as for example, if the scanf, if you forget to give ampersand after %d during the scanf statement, then it's a logical error. Okay, or suppose you are going to divide a number by 0, that means it will throw you a logical error or runtime error, because it will give you an infinite kind of solution. So this kind of error are called logical error. Syntactical error means any kind of syntax related mistakes if you have done during the writing of the source code, like if you forget to give a first bracket, if you forget to give a third bracket or semicolon at the end of the statement, then syntactical error or the compiler will do its job to catch the syntactical error. Okay, so this is the overall software development life cycle. Now there are several IDEs which I have already told: Borland, MS Visual C++, Code Warrior. You can use any one of the IDE, and I'm using a Dev C++. I am showing my code in Dev C++ IDE. Okay, so you have to first choose the editor, create the editor where you edit your program, write your program, save the program by its name .cpp extension. Then you will run the compiler. Okay, and then automatically the others, when you call the compiler, the others software modules has been called one after another. Okay, you can call debugger explicitly. Okay, if you have all the IDE has a debugger, so if you want to explicitly call the debugger, you can call it explicitly. And the last module is the viewer module, where you can get the execution of your output. Okay. So in case of the basic keywords, variables, identifiers, operators, all these things are similar to C program in C++. Okay, that's why I've said that C++ is a superset of C. In last class I have shown actually in a Venn diagram, C++ is a superset of C. So all the basic operators, all kind of syntax that we are using in C programming, all are applicable in C++. Only it has a extra powerful features of using an object-oriented concept. That means that pi principle and class and object concept can be embedded or can be implemented with the help of C++ as well. Okay, so there is nothing to teach you regarding the identifiers or variables, because it is very much similar with the your C programming. Now This is the overall module explanation of the C programming. The C programming will follow the similar kind of things. So first you are going to declare the header file. Okay, this is a header file declaration section. Then in the program you are going to declare the global declaration. If you have any global variable to declare, you can declare it. It's optional, it's not mandatory. Then you will declare the main method. Okay, so if we are not going to use a class and object in our first couple of C++ programs, then we don't declare any class. Okay, we directly declare the main method, int main. If we declare int main, we'll have to use return 0. Okay, all of you know that. And if we declare void main, we don't need to use any return 0. Okay, then these are method definition functions. So method definition means if you define any kind of functions, then the prototype declaration of the function should be declared here. Or if you declare any kind of structure, then you will declare that structure fields or structure members within these areas. Or if you declare any class, then you can declare here in this area. Then you will declare the main function. Then you will declare the method definition. Okay, so whatever method prototype declaration you have declared here, you have to define the method, the definition of all those methods whose prototype we have declared in this section. So these are the overall classification of the different parts while you are writing your code. Okay, structure of a basic C++ program. Now, this is your one of the example that I have given to you in front of you. Try to understand. This is the most simplest program. You can say it's a hello world program, one kind of thing, but it's a general form, okay, of writing a program. So the lines or the statements which are written in blue color, those statements are mandatory. It should be present while you are writing your C++ program. Clear? The statements are mandatory. It should be present while you are writing your C++ program. Okay. Then there is a declaration part. Declaration means if you want to declare any local variables, you can declare in this declaration statement. Okay. The declaration specifies the data that is used by the program. Okay. So if you want to perform a factorial operations, so you are going to perform a factorial on a particular variable or a particular value which has been stored inside a variable. So that variable declaration you can perform here. Or suppose you are performing an addition operation. So you have to take at least 2 variables to perform additions. So those 2 variables has been declared and defined in this section. Okay. So this declaration can declare either constants or variable, for example. So you can also declare constant here. The same keyword we are using for declaring constant in C, the same keyword we are using here to declare a constant. C-O-N-S-T, const. Const keyword we will use to declare a variable as a constant variable whose value cannot be changed in the lifespan of that program. Okay. Now the statements specify the algorithm for the solution to your problem. So these statements actually give you the algorithm. That means if you perform the addition operation, then addition algorithm you have to write here in terms of codes in this statements block. Okay. Or if you perform a factorial operation, then you have to write those factorial looping operations or factorial the main method, the main operation, the logical part into this statement part. And then you are going to close down this one. So here you will see that I don't need to discuss about the algorithm. I think algorithm and flowchart you have already completed in your previous semester. Okay, I have discussed this algorithm flowchart in a very detailed way. Okay, how to write an algorithm, I think all of you know that. Okay, so so statements are the executable units of a program. So the statement part in this program, the statement part are executable unit. That means the statement part, whatever it will calculate, that will produce the output at your output window. So statements are the translation of an algorithm into a program code. Okay. So statements may be a simple statement or maybe a structure statement. Simple means typically one line, suppose a printf hello world, or you can say structure statement means you can define any functions there. You can define any kind of control structure, if, else loop, for loop, these kind of things. And statement must be terminated with a semicolon symbol. That all of you know. A similar logic is applied in C programming, that all the statement must be terminated by semicolon symbol. Only which statement should not terminated by the help of semicolon symbols? The function names which will be ended with a first parenthesis followed by second parenthesis, open parenthesis and close parenthesis, those function names should not be ended with a semicolon. Then any kind of looping statement like while loop, for loop, while you have written down the looping statement within the first bracket should not be ended with a semicolon. And the functions brackets, the function braces, open brace and close brace should not be ended with a semicolon. Okay. These are the common three statements that we are using to write any kind of programming. Okay. Sequencing means executing statements one after another is called sequencing. This is actually called the Bohem structure. Okay, I already discussed this structure during my C programming, the first class of C programming, the Bohem mathematical structure. Bohem is a mathematician and who developed or who innovated this structure that all the programming language, which it may be a structured programming language or it may be object-oriented programming language, all the programming language must follow this three structure: sequence, selection, and repetition. Sequence means execute statement one after another, that is the sequence. Selection means select which statement to execute. Selection means by the help of some conditions, you can select that this statement should be executed and this should not. Okay, they're like if-else condition. Okay, and the third one is repetition. Repetition is a very important part. Every programming language must have repetition, which reduces the effort to do the same work again and again. Okay, so repeatedly execute statements for repetition. So our C++ program also follows all these three structures, control structures. Okay. Now the preprocessor directive. So obviously you can understand in this program which one is the preprocessor directive. The first one. In this program, which one is the preprocessor directive? The first one. Hash include IO stream. Okay. Hash include IO stream. This is the preprocessor directive in this program, right? So IO stream stands for input output streaming. IO stream stands for input output streaming. It is just similarly working like a stdio.h. In C programming, all of you have done that stdio.h. You have extensively used that one. So here the IO stream is just simply working like stdio.h. Okay. So this directive causes the preprocessor to add the contents of the IO stream file to the program, to your source program. Okay. And it contains declaration for the identifier cout and cin. Look, these two identifiers have been given, cout and cin. So if you remember, the stdio.h mainly we have used in our C program to support printf statement and scanf statement. If you remember. So here the iostream.h, input output streaming.h. Okay, streaming means sequence of byte streaming, either streaming from outside to your system, your program, or from program to outside. Okay, that means outside to your system means you are actually performing the input operation, scanf operation, and your system to output window means you are performing printf operations. Okay, but in C++, instead of printf and scanf functions, the IO stream doesn't support printf scanf. IO stream support cout and cin. These two library functions for input output operation. Obviously, you can understand cin for input operation, console input. Cin full form is console input, and cout full form is console output. Remember it. Cin full form is console input. Cout full form is console output. Okay, and these two are objects. These two are considered as objects. These two are not functions. Okay, these two are actually objects, but at backend it will working like a functions. But these are called objects. Okay, these are called objects, and we should not use any semicolon at the end of this header file. We should not use any semicolon at the end of this header file. If you remember, we have to use a so we should not use any semicolon at the end of the header file. So in C program, we also should not use any semicolon at the end of the header file. So here the same thing is happened. Okay. So some old version of C++ sometimes use iostream.h. Okay, some old version of C++, but nowadays whatever C++ compiler you are going to use, okay, maybe an online compiler or offline compiler, you can use iostream. You don't need to use iostream.h. Okay, it doesn't support. The older version of C++ support iostream.h, but newer version doesn't support iostream.h. It will support only iostream. Okay, input output streaming, right? And this is called preprocessor directives. I think all of you know why it is called preprocessor, because before executing of this program statement or source code statement, these header files will be pre-processed. That's called preprocessor. The compiler will process this header file first, okay, and then compile this source code. Okay, why? Because if the header file, if the compiler will compile the source code first before this file will be pre-processed, then the source code contains cout cin within it, so it will not find the definition of cout cin because this header file has not been processed before the source code. So that's why it is called preprocessor directives. Means before compiler compiled or process the source code, they has to process the pre-process this directive or header files. Okay, I think it is clear to everyone. Is anyone has any question up to this? Anyone has any question? If you have any question, please ask me. Okay, so we should move on. Now, next thing that I need to tell you on the namespace directive is showing that this directive allows the cout cin statements to be used in a program without the prefix std, and with this directive may write this one. Okay, you don't need to require this one, because if you need a header file, if you have included this header file, you don't need to do this kind of declaration. Okay, std, then this operator, and then cout. This operator is called scope resolution operator. Remember, this operator, one colon followed by another colon. This operator is very new to you. This was not used in C. Okay, this is a special operator that we are using in C++ very frequently, and it's called a scope resolution operator. SCOPE, scope resolution operator. Okay, remember it. Okay, so these are the things that you can read at home. I am not going to tease those things because these are very much similar with C. Okay, how many data types are there, variables, constants. Okay, so how we can declare a constant in C++, a similar way we have declared a constant in C. Okay, Acha. One thing that I need to tell you, these things have omitted, that using namespace std, then followed by a semicolon. What is the job of this statement? It is actually using directive. Remember, this using namespace std is actually using directives. Okay, just like the hash include directive. Okay, this is using directives. Now, namespace std. Okay, this namespace directive is actually using here. Okay, and this std, we actually require std colon cout. So you can write this namespace in this way, but the thing is that actually this namespace defines a scope for the identifiers that are used in a program. Some identifiers you are using in your program. Identifier means the various kind of variables or keywords which are used to identify some job. So this namespace defines a scope for the identifiers that are used in your program. So for using these identifiers defined in the namespace scope, we have to include, or we must include, this using namespace std. Okay, so using is a directive, then followed by a namespace scope, and then std means standard. Okay, so std is actually the namespace where ANSI C++ standard class libraries are defined. std is a namespace where ANSI C++ standard class libraries are defined. So all ANSI C++ programs must include this directive, and this will bring all the identifiers defined in the std to the current globe of your program, to the current globe of your program, global scope, to the current global scope of your program. That means within the current global scope, you are trying to include all the identifiers, okay, which you are using in your program. So using a namespace are the keywords of C++. So these two keywords are very new to you. These two keywords we were not using in C programming language. using keyword and namespace keyword. These two are the new keyword in C++. Using and namespace. Using and namespace. Okay, the two new keywords that we are using in C++. So one thing is very clear to you, that we have to include whatever program we are going to do. We have to include these two statements always with our C++ program. Okay, IOStream for input output operation to support the input output objects C in and C out, and namespace we are using to make our identifiers confined within the global scope of our program, where you have defined your identifiers. Okay. So let's show you this code which I have shown in the last class. So hello world program, this is a hello world program. So I have included this header file followed by this namespace. Clear? Now within int main, this is the integer main which will return some value. So within int main, look, I have defined one object, cout. So instead of printf, I am using cout object. So obviously you can understand it's not a function. Otherwise I have to give first bracket or parenthesis. Have I given any parenthesis? No, I didn't give any parenthesis because it is not a function, it is object, and which object has been defined within this class library of header files IOStream. And this operator is less than. So can anyone tell me what is the role of this operator in C? This less than operator. What is the role of this operator in C programming? Less than. What is the name of
the parenthesis?
No. This
left
one.
shift.
Left shift. Shifting operators. Left shift. Right. If you remember, we have to shifting the bits. If we convert the numbers where the left shift operator is using, if we convert the numbers into binary form, we have to shift that number 2 times at the left hand side of that binary form. Okay, and the right value will be replaced by 0. If you remember, that logic is actually working. But here, this operator is called insertion operator. This operator is called insertion operator or put to operator, whatever you say, or put to operator, put to. Okay, remember it. This is called, it's a command line. Command line is into similar like C programming. Okay, either you can give this command line, or you can give for multiple command line, you can give this one. Is your choice, any one of it. So this operator is called insertion operator, put to operator. So you can make a question that said, if we are using this operator here, so can we use this kind of operation in C++, like 8 less than 2? Can we use this kind of operation in C++? What do you say? Can we use this kind of operation in C++?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Because actually we are using this in integer type, like we use this operator in integer, so it will shift. But the count
do you think that it will give some output? What do you think?
It will shift like to
What output it will give? 8 less than 2. What output it will give? 8 less than 2. I have already discussed the shortcut process. For greater than, we will do division 2 times by the right hand side value, and for less than, we will divide it 2 times for left. We will multiply 2 times for left with the help of right hand side value. So here the output should be given 8 into 2, 16, and 16 into 2, 32. Actually, this is a shortcut process, but the long process is that we have to convert this 8 into a binary numbers 0110 format. Okay, and if you consider, you have to consider either an 8-bit system or 16-bit system, is your choice, and then shifting the value at the left hand side 2 times, shifting all the values of the 8. So what is the binary form of 8, 1 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0. That is the binary form of 8. So if we shift the value 1 at the right hand side, and then the left hand side will be represented by replaced by 0. So it should be 1 0 0 0 0. Right? It should be 1 0 0 0 0. One extra 0 will be added at the right hand side. What I'm trying to say, look, what is the general form of 8? 1 0 0 0. General binary form of 8, right? 2 to the 0, 2 to the 1, 2 to the square, 2 to the cube. So it is 8, equivalent to 8. Now less than 2 means we have to shift these values 2 times at the left hand side and replace by 0. This value 2 times at the left hand side and replace by 0. So if we shift this value 2 times at the left hand side, how it will look? The first time, after shifting the first time, it will look like this: 1 0 0 0 0. Are you agree with me? We shift
Yes.
each value at the left hand side and replace the blank spot by another 0. So replace the blank spot by another 0. So this is the first time shifting. Now we will do the same shifting for the second time, because it is 2. 2 means 2 times shifting. So 1 0 0 0 0, one more extra 0. Now convert these things into a decimal number: 2 to the 0, 2 to the 1, 2 to the 2, 3, 4, 2 to the 5. The 2 to the 5 means what? Equivalent to 32.
32.
Is it clear to you? That is the actual thing is happening at the memory by the help of this operator. That is the actual thing is happening at the back end of your memory by the help of this operator. And I am discussing with you the shortcut process. For less than operator, multiply 8 2 times by 2. So 8 into 2, 16, 16 into 2, 32. Okay. And if there is a greater than operator, then divide the 8 by 2 times. So it should be 8 divided by 2, 4, 4 divided by 2, 2. Okay. So let's run this code. Okay. So hello world for C++ and then 32. Clear? Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
So can you draw any conclusion from this program? Can you draw any new conclusion from this program? I want to check your logic. How can you draw a new conclusion of your program? BCA people, can you give the answer? Can you draw any new conclusion from this program? BCA people. Rahul, Tripurari, anyone can give this answer. What kind of conclusion you can draw here? I mean, you can see what kind of extra things that you didn't see in C program. That is the simplest question that I am asking to you. Any extra, any new thing that you have seen here that you didn't see in C program?
Yes, sir, the IO string.
No, I'm not talking about the syntax. Syntax are new. That I have already told you. This is new. This is new. This is new. I have already told that. I'm talking about logically. Logically, what you have seen. দুটো জিনিস কিন্তু আমরা এখানে দেখতে পাচ্ছি. Two things. Syntactically একটা নতুন জিনিস দেখতে পাচ্ছি, আর logically নতুন জিনিস দেখতে পাচ্ছি. Just tell me syntactically আমরা কি দেখতে পাচ্ছি. Apart from these things I have already told. This is new. This is new. C out new. So these things I have already told. Syntactically, one new thing we have seen here that we didn't see in C programming. And then you will tell me the logical. Yeah, that's right. Any one of you. We take people go bolte parbe.
% টা ইউজ করছি না।
Yes, very good. % D কিন্তু আমরা ইউজ করছি না, right? We are not using any access specifier. Not access specifier, you can say that specifier of particular variable. So আমাদের এখানে কোনো confusion নেই, দেখতে পাচ্ছো? So we don't need to. It is much easier in C++. Java তো কিন্তু ইউজ করা হয় না. Java তো the same concept. We don't need to use any %D, %F, %C, %L. Those creating lots of confusion in C. So the entire headache of using those kind of access specifiers deleting in C++. Okay. আচ্ছা এখানে কিন্তু printf scanf function is also working. Okay, here printf scanf function is also working. If you use this function, it is also working, but I suggest everyone don't use printf scanf functions. Okay, printf scanf functions are a part of the C programming, structure oriented programming. Okay, here we are doing object oriented programming, so we will use this object cout and cin. I have already told this is an object. Okay, this is not a function. Okay, so don't use printf scanf. Avoid to use printf scanf.
প্রিন্টেড স্ক্যানিফ করতে ইউজ করতে গেলে কি আলাদা হেডার ফাইল ইনক্লুড করতে হবে?
Yes. Actually, C++ compiler supports both C program and C++. So obviously, all the things that you have used in C, you can also use in C++. C++ is superset of C, na? So it will support all the things. It's a very simple logic. Okay, so syntactical one difference you have told me. Very good. Now, can you tell me the logical difference? What you have seen here, a new thing that we didn't see in C programming.
Left shift operators.
Hey, left shift operator C to dekhiye. We have already seen the left shift operator in C. What is the new thing here? Means if you want to say, you can tell it clearly. What do you want to say regarding left shift operator?
Concatenation using the left shift operator.
Concatenation. Okay, and yes, he's trying. It is a good try. He's trying to say that one extra thing that we have seen here, and that extra thing is called very, very important. What I have written. What I have written. Operator overloading. That means the same operator will be used for more than one job, or for more than one work. It's called operator overloading. Sometimes you have told, na, sir, I am overloaded with multiple jobs. Okay, so here in C++, there is a very, very common feature. Not only C++, but also in Java. The operator overloading we have seen very frequently, or in a very commonly in C++ and Java. In C programming, there is no concept of operator overloading. Am I clear to you? Can anyone tell me how the operator is overloaded here? The same less than operator is used for concatenation. Okay, means also used for the printing job, and the same less than operator is used for the left shift operation. Am I clear to you? Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
Anyone any doubt? Is it clear to everyone? Operator overloading is a very, very important concept. Very, very important concept. Now let me show you the cin. What is the job of cin? So here, instead of taking 8 directly, we will take A here, and we will use cin to take the value of A as a console input. That means your keyboard input, as a keyboard input from keyboard. So in C programming, to perform input from keyboard, we'll have to use scanf function. Here we have to use cin object. Okay, we have to use cin object to do this operation, and the name of this operator is insertion. The previous one was insertion, this one was insertion. So this one will be extraction operator. Insertion, extraction. Means used for the input options. Okay, used for the input options. Now let me run this code. This is for keyboard, input from keyboard or input from console, okay, a runtime input. So first it will print hello world. Now look, the cursor is blinking in front of you. That means it will demand a value from you for the variable a. So I have given 8 and it will print the output 32 after doing the left shift operation. Clear? Is it clear to everyone? Tell me. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, and the rest of the thing is very much similar with C programming. Okay, so I'm not going to discuss all these things because the same variables, same things are, most of the things are similar. Okay, most of the things are similar. Some of the things are dissimilar, which I have already discussed, like those header files, these extra objects are dissimilar. Okay, so those things are dissimilar. I have already discussed. Okay, so I think you can do the program that I want to give you today, and you can take input in such a way, multiple inputs you can take, right, in such a way. See in height, then again greater than width. So more than one value or multiple values from keyboard you can take by the help of see in object in such a way. Okay. This is a simple program of calculating the area of a circle. Okay, area of a circle. So pi into r square. This is the formula. So it will take radius as a compile time input. You can take it as a runtime input, and then it has printed the value of the area. Okay, printed the value of the area. And the same rule has been applied. The rule that has been applied for the identifiers, keywords, and variables in C programming. The same rule will be applied. The rules of how to define keywords, the rules of how to define variables. Okay, lowercase letters should be there. These are the identifiers. Okay, variable name, function name. So here you can also define user-defined function. The same, that's exactly similar way that we have defined in C programming. Okay, exactly similar way. These are declaring variable, how to declare the variables. Okay, exactly similar way. So the only differences I have already discussed with you. These are the operators. Okay, the similar kind of operators we are using here. Only the thing is that operator overloading can be possible. That means one operator can be used for multiple jobs or multiple purposes. Okay, all the operators are similar, which you have learned in C programming. The same operators are using here. Okay. This is the expression, writing an expression. Okay, you can write the expression in such a way. So these are the assignment operations, the same operator we have used in C programming. Operator precedency concept is similar, just like a C programming. Okay. Increment decrement operator is also used here. Okay, so all kind of looping variables are also used. If loop, else loop, for loop, while loop. Okay, everything has been used here. Okay, all the math libraries that we have used in C programming, that math library is also applicable here. Okay, with the help of this math.h. So all the other header files is also applicable. Okay, just like the header files that we have used, but here the header files we should use as C math. Okay, not math.h. In C programming we have used math.h. Here you have used C math. This is a common error has been showing. Okay, next thing that I need to show, which is the main purpose of showing that class and object. So in the last class, I already discussed about class and object. Okay, what is class, what is object, how the class and object is related with each other. I have given some real life examples, and I have discussed it very detailed. So today we are going to do only 1 or 2 program regarding class and object, not more than that. Okay, because class and object is an object-oriented programming concept, so it is actually the heart of any object-oriented programming concept or of any object-oriented programming language, including C++. Right? So a class is a way. In our last class, I have already told. So class is nothing but a template which will give a virtual concept, which will bind data and functions together. Listen very carefully. A class is a template. This template term I have also used in C programming to represent one concept. Can anyone tell me which concept I have represented with the term template?
Structures.
Very good. Very good. Structure is also represent template. This one is a template. But one thing is there. Within structure, we are going to define only the variables. Okay, it may be array variables or it may be a float, single variable, only variables. But functions we cannot define within the structure template, right? But class allow you to declare a variable as well as functions. So class members are generally 2 types. Class members, these are called members. Okay, যেমন এখানে structure members, these are structure members. In the same way, these are class members, right? So class members are generally 2 types. One is the data variables, integer, float, array, whatever you say, and the second one is associated functions or methods, right? So if you remember, in the last class, we have discussed the difference between class and object with some example of fruit and the various example of various instances of fruits like orange, apple, banana, and so on. If you remember, so each and every fruit class has some specific kind of members, right? So if we define the characteristic, the members, what actually members define in a class? The members are mainly defines it actually represents the various characteristics of that particular class, right? Or various operations of that particular class. So suppose the fruit class has some members like string color. So within the fruit class, can we define it as a string color? Within the fruit class, can we define it as a string color? If you remember, we have defined it as a fruit class, right? This is a fruit class. So if we define a fruit class, suppose in such a way, class equal to fruit. Okay, if we define it as a fruit class, so can we define it as a string color? Can we define this data? What do you say? The color of a fruit.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
We
sir.
can,
Character color.
yes, we can obviously define it, the color of a fruit. It may be possible that the color of orange is different, the color of apple is different, the color of banana is different. Because when objects are different, their corresponding features, characteristics are also different. Okay, it may be possible. That's why we cannot define the value here. You cannot define it as a red here. Why you cannot define it as a red? Because all the objects of this fruit class cannot be in the same color. Try to understand. These are very logical. All the objects of this fruit class cannot be in the same color. So that's why we should not define it as any value here. Okay. So in the same way, we can define the other characters like string smell. Each and every fruit has some smell. String smell. You can define it. Okay, I don't remember that, and I cannot remember right now. Can we define any integer or float parameters? We can define float parameters as well, like float price. Okay, float price. So each and every fruit class has some kind of, each and every fruit has some kind of market value or market price that we can define here. Float price. Understand what I'm trying to say? Anyone has any problem?
Yes,
Bolo.
স্যার স্ট্রিং এ ওটা থার্ড ব্র্যাকেট ওপেন ক্লোজ হবে না?
String.
Character, color, and array.
So we need to give the size.
No.
Array.
I am just এটা আমি কোড লিখছি না, I am not writing any code here. I am just giving a logical sense here. Okay, while we will write a code, we will use a character array. Okay, while we will write a code, we will use a character array. Okay, I am just showing here a logical concept, right? Now after that, we can define some methods or functions as a member of this class. So suppose we can define a functions like what function we should define. Suppose we will define a function like void test. Okay, logical.
Oh, sir, I have a question. Sir, but in C++, we don't use the brackets, right, for string.
Where?
Someone is saying like we are not using the brackets here for the string data type, but we don't use the brackets, right, in C++.
Yes, I know that, but most of the people don't know the string object here. Okay, so that's why I don't want to confuse them.
Okay.
That's why right now I don't want to confuse them. Okay, so we can also use character array. If we don't use string object, then we can also use character array here. Okay, so right now I don't want to make them confused. Okay, so this is a basic thing. Okay, so void test. So void test, it is a function, right? It's a method. So can you classify these things? So this is a class fruit, which is nothing but a template, and which will consist of this 3 data members or member variables and 1 functions. So according to choice of the developer or designer, they can add more number of variables and more number of functions. Okay, right now I remember this thing, so I am just into it. So in such a way, the class variables can be defined. Okay, in such a way, the class variables can be defined. So here, one basic structure of how to define a class variable has been shown here. So first we have to use the class name of this. This is a class keyword. Okay, this is the class keyword. So this keyword is also new to you, right? In C programming, there was no concept of class keyword, but here in C++, there is a concept of class keyword. Then give a space, then followed by a class name. This class name is similar to your choice, user choice, just like a structure name, we will give a class name. Okay, user choice. Then we will give a access specifier. Right now, we are not using private, we are using public. In future, I will show how to use private, public, the difference between them. Right now, you just remember we will use always public, followed by a colon, and then in the next line, we will use the function declaration. In the next line, we will use the function declaration. And variable declaration, either we can make it private or we can make it public. Okay. Now, what is the job of private, public? Those things I am going to discuss in future, right? So right now, I don't want to make you confused. So just I need to show you a small program where I did a factorial using class and object. Look very carefully. Here I did a factorial program using class and object concepts. You can also perform this factorial program without class and object. Okay, just like C programming within direct main method, you can use factorial. But if in the examination, if it will mention explicitly by using class and object or using the object-oriented concept, you have to implement factorial, then you have to use class and object. There is no other option. Okay, is it clear? So let's check out how I have done or have used this class and object. Simple factorial of a number. Okay, so I have defined a class whose name is factorial. Here, within the class, I have defined 2 values, 2 variables, n and p. Can anyone tell me what is the job of n and what is the job of p? If you remember the
N to
factorial
get the number and P to get the product.
Yes, very good. N is used for input number on which we are trying to calculate the factorial, right? So we'll take n with the help of cin. Very clear. Then p is a product, storing the product. If you remember the factorial, within for loop, we have to initialize the value of p is equal to 1, and within the for loop or while loop, whatever loop you will use, you have to use p equal to p into I. I is the for loop variable or looping variable. Okay, so the final product is multiplying in each and every stage, and the final product will be stored into the final value of the p, right? And within the public keyword, I have defined two functions. Within the public keyword, I have declared two functions, not defined. I'm using wrong statement. This is declaration. So you can understand here, within the class template, we can only use declaration. I repeat again, within the class template, we are only use declaration. We cannot do any definition, right? We cannot do any definition. Why? Because go to the last example again. So each and every object of this fruit class can have different color, different smell, different price, right? So if we declare here a common value, that means all the objects should follow all the common color, common smell, common price. And it is not, it is unreal. It cannot happen. Okay, so that's why we're using only declaration within the class template. Is it clear to everyone why we have used only declaration within the class template? Why we don't use definition within the class template? This question has been frequently asked in the interview. Is it clear to everyone? Anyone has any confusion? Why we don't use the definition within the class template? Why use only declaration? Is it clear to everyone? Is
Yes.
it understandable? Okay. So here we did the same thing. We used two variables, get data and display factorial. Two functions name. Okay. Member methods. Okay. These are also member. These are member variable. These are the member methods or member functions, whatever you say. Okay. I have made it public. Right now, we just remember we have to make all the functions public. Okay. What is the difference in public, private, protected, that I will discuss in later classes. Right now, we just make it public. Okay. Now, get data, with the help of get data function, we are getting data or extracting data from the keyboard on which we are performing factorial, right? And with the help of display factorial function, we are doing the actual factorial operation, that looping and then p equal to p into I, this kind of operations, right? So let's check it out. How can we join the class name with its member functions? This is the operator by the help of which we can join the class name with the member function. And this operator is called scope resolution operator. In last discussion, I have told that this is called scope resolution operator. In C++, this operator has a huge value, huge importance. Scope resolution operator. What is the job of this operator? It will actually combine the class name to its corresponding member functions. Okay. Now you can say, sir, why we require this class name along with this member function? Because it may be possible that there may be multiple classes in your program. It may be possible there may be multiple classes in your program, and within the same class you may use the similar member function name. Suppose there is another class, suppose class prime. Within this prime, you are using the same function get data, right? So in that case, you will have to write void prime scope resolution operator : then get data. That means that get data is specific or belongs to that prime class, and here the get data is specifically belongs to the factorial class. Okay, so void means we are not returning anything here. That's why I have made it void. Okay, so void factorial : means your scope resolution operator and then get data. Now within get data, what is our job? Our job is to take the input of the number on which we perform the factorial. I think all of you know how to take the input. I have already shown. Now the next method is display factorial. The same job is to access the display factorial method. Okay, and here I did the factorial operations. I think this factorial operation is clear to everyone. Everyone knows how to do factorial. Okay. Now this functions definition is over. This is called function definitions, right? These two are function definitions, right? So function declaration is happened, is occurred within the class template, and function definitions happen just after the function declaration, right? Now we will go for the main method. Within main method, Now our main job is to access these methods. Our main job is to access these methods. Okay. Now if we want to access the method of a class, we have to take the help of the object of that class. Remember it, write it. Okay. If we want to access the methods of a particular class, we have to take the help of the object of that class. Right. So if you return back to our example, last example, class fruit, if you want to access, suppose this method has been defined. So if you want to access the test method or these variables of this class, we have to take the object, either orange object, or we have to create the object like apple object, or we have to create the object like banana object of this fruit class, because each and every object has its corresponding different color, different smell, different price and taste. Okay. So here we have to create the object of a class. How we can create the object of a class? We can create the object of a class in such a way. Look, factorial f. So make it easy for you. Instead of f, I am using ob. Ob means object. Ob means object. You can use any variable. Okay, here any object name here. But for your sake of simplicity to understand, I am using ob. And this line is mainly used for object creation dynamically. One thing you should remember, object creation is always happen in dynamic nature or in dynamic fashion. Statically, objects cannot be created. Okay. And somewhere the value, or you can say the space for the object has been provided in your computer system from memory heap. Remember it. The interview will ask this question very frequently. From where the space for the object has been provided in your system? Memory heap. Memory heap is one of the portion in primary memory. Okay. In primary memory, it is one of the portion, and from heap memory, it will provide you the space for this object. And objects are always created dynamically in nature. Okay. Now, after creation of this object, how we can access the methods? How we can access the methods? By using the object name followed by a dot operator and then method name. You can access the method, and this access is similar to the access of structure member. If you remember, structure member kiভাবে access করতাম আমরা? We will access the structure member by structure variable name dot its member name. We can access it. So in the same way, the object can access the methods of this class, which you have already defined with the help of dot operator. So object name followed by dot operator, then get data method. Okay. And then followed by object name dot operator display factorial method. Then we will close the main method. So the processing, the compilation start from here. It will create the object ob. Then while it will create the object ob, then it will first check whether there is a factorial class exist or not. So factorial class exists, and it will encounter all this declaration. Then the object will access or call the methods. Then the compiler will check whether the method has been defined or not. Yes, it is defined. So it will simply execute the method, and then again return back to this line, end of this line. Then again the next line, again another method is called. So it will again return back to that particular method definition. Then execute all the statement, and then again return back to the end of this line, and then execute return 0 or encounter return 0. So if we execute this code, so enter the number to do the factorial. Suppose I am giving the number 5, and the factorial value is 120. Is it clear? Anyone has any confusion, any doubt? Please tell me. Any doubt? We have to clear this concept today. We have to clear the basic concept of how to access class and object, or how to create object of a class, and how to access the members of a class. Tell me.
Sir, ভেরিয়েবল গুলোকে অ্যাক্সেস করার জন্য আমার অবজেক্ট ক্রিয়েশনের দরকার পড়ছে না না?
না, ভেরিয়েবল গুলো অ্যাক্সেস করতে অবজেক্ট ক্রিয়েশন লাগবে। আমি ভেরিয়েবল অ্যাক্সেস করে দেখাইনি, বাট ইফ ইউ ওয়ান্ট টু অ্যাক্সেস, দেন ইউ হ্যাভ টু ক্রিয়েট দ্য অবজেক্ট। তুমি ধরো এখানে একটা ভেরিয়েবলের ভ্যালু দিয়ে দিলে, সাপোজ ধরো দিলে, দেওয়া উচিত নয়, বাট ইউ ক্যান গিভ ইট, Suppose you have given a value 6, p equal to 6. Okay. Now I want to print that value here. কিভাবে print করব ধরো cout extraction operator then ob.p. P means 6. Let's check it out. So look, oh acha, the thing is that it is private, so so that concept is difficult to tell, right? Now it will work. Look, 5. Look, the variable 120 120. If I will print 2 times. One second. ob.p ob dot get data, ob dot factorial. This is the factorial. And p equal to 6.
It will give the function value like first like if we take this
Why
method,
print 2 times? That is the question. Why it will print 2 times?
because you are using it 2 times.
In display factory, it is once.
P will
There
give
is
you
one output.
correct value, no? That p that you got.
Which
Factorial.
one? Which one?
This one, sir. Your first of all, you are getting p value like factorial value, that is 120. Then p will be a
Okay, so we should not do. We will take one extra value here. I think right now it will not give you the problem. Okay. Yes, he is right, because p is already changed to 120, right? So that's why it gives the 120 value, right? Right now it will give you the correct value. Okay. So this is the variable, right? 5. You can access it in such a way. So you can not only access the membered functions, you can also allow to access the membered variables. Now, why if we will not give it public, then why it cannot access? It will give error. That I will discuss in the next class. Okay. Right now, just remember that you have to make it public, forcefully public. That is the disadvantage of C++. By default, C++ access specifier is private, and by default, Java access specifier is public. So Java is more accessible than C++, but C++ provides more security than Java, because by default it is a private. So it is one kind of disadvantage of C++ as well as an advantage of C++. Okay, because by default it is, because of the by default privateness, C++ gives more security than Java. But again, because it is by default private, then the accessibility is difficult in C++, whereas in Java the accessibility is much easier. Okay. In future, I'm going to discuss about the private, public, all these things. Right now, you will make it public. Okay. Anyone any other questions?
Yes, sir. Sir, can you tell that why we do not write the function definition in the class while declaring the functions?
The same thing, which I already gave the answer here. In fruit class, if we mention the color of a fruit here, if you give any kind of value here in fruit class, so that value should be common for all the fruit objects. So suppose if the fruit class color value have given red, so it should be true for all the objects we have defined under this fruit class. So within the fruit class, I can define orange. Within the fruit class, I can define apple. Within the fruit class, I can define banana. So red is suitable for only apple. It is not suitable for banana. It is not suitable for orange. So can you make it a compulsory value here? Is it logically, is it correct?
No.
That's why we cannot do any kind of definition, not only variable definition, even the same thing. Suppose within void test, you have defined you have printed a statement that suppose you have printed a statement that that test is solved. Okay, so that statement is suitable for some kind of orange. Is that statement suitable for apple and banana?
No.
Yes. So you cannot make it define. Define means you actually the similar kind of things. If you remember, while I taught you the structure, I have given you one story. I told you one story that that function that doing that doing some kind of play, doing some kind of play, and that template is working like that. What I have said that the envelope or the coat of a tiger. Okay, so if you during the play, if you give the coat, or if a particular person wear that particular coat of a tiger, then that person is working like it is playing the play of a tiger at any time. And suppose that person is not eligible or not liable, or not present at a particular day of that play, so any other person can wear that particular tiger coat and play the role of a tiger. So in the same way, this class template is just working like of that coat. Okay, so an object which will wear this coat is following the behavior of all these variables or members. Okay, so if we define a particular value or assign a particular value here, then that value will be assigned for each and every member or each and every object of this class. And that is not true. That is not true, because each and every object should be different. Should be different for this class. That is the thing that I want to tell you. In future, I will show you several programs. Your conception will be fully clear. Okay, don't worry about it. Okay, any other question? Any other question? Is it clear to everyone? BCA people, is it clear to you?
Yes.
Anyone in any question you can ask. You have to build out this process.
So one out of the topic question. So we will do DSA in C++ or C?
Which one? I don't understand.
So when we will start doing DSA, like data structures and all those things.
Data structure, you can implement data structure in any programming language. You can implement it in Python, you can implement it in Java, you can implement it in C, you can implement it in C++. But in your curriculum, I think it is implemented in C. I think in your curriculum, it is not in other language.
Okay.
So you can use the same software for data structure as well, but your coding should be in C.
Yeah. Okay.
I insist, those if someone is asking you to write a code in C, don't use this C out and C in. I already checked your paper of your semester, and some of you are getting the materials from the internet, এবং অন্ধের মতন লেগে গেছে, and in that material it has been you have sometimes you have used that C++ code.